My man, I heard there's a new app on the streets that does it all for you.
Really? How is that possible?
Charlie, I also could not believe it too. But I downloaded the app and I'm telling you, I was able to chat with my friends, make video calls and...
Well, we know of many apps that can do that.
Oh, let me finish la. I was also able to listen to the latest songs, play games and read the latest sports news.
For real?
Yeah, and I can send and receive money from the app. Amazing, no?
What's the name of this app?
It's called Ayoba.
Ayoba?
Yeah, Ayoba.
Get Ayoba, your all-in-one app that lets you chat, call, share, play, pay, and listen to music all in one app for everyone. Enjoy Ayoba with MTN and download the Ayoba app today. Everywhere you go.
Son, we are so proud of you for setting up this hospital. I really love those hospital beds and waiting chairs. By the way, did you import them?
No, Dad, I didn't. I actually got them from Kindle Books and Stationery right here in Ghana.
Wow. We also bought our office supplies, safes, executive desks and chairs from Kingdom, and they gave us expert advice on how to set up our office.
Guys, that makes 3 of us. I also got our sofa and bedroom sets, plus our dining hall furniture for our new home from Kingdom.
Wow, Mom, that makes 4 of us. I usually get my stationery items from Kingdom, and my teacher also mentioned that our classroom furniture was provided by Kingdom.
So there you have it. Whenever you're thinking about setting up an office or acquiring furniture for your home, etc., Kingdom Books and Stationery should be your first point of call. With over 40 years experience in the industry, we stock and supply a wide variety of globally sourced office and home furniture, stationery and equipment. Visit our head office, Osu Akwaje, or our office near the Osu Stadium. We're also in Tema Community 1, opposite Olam SHS, Kumasi KNUST campus, UCC Cape Coast, and now at the Marina Mall, Airport City. For call us 0302 764101, 764209, or 762792. Visit our website www.kingdomgh.com.
Luxurious affordable living is your right, and no one understands it better than BOT Properties. BOT Properties specializes in modern residential buildings and commercial office spaces. Our properties include the Equator, a 12-story made up of over 100 apartments near Accra Mall. Other Equator courts, we offer you the deluxe living experience with our top-of-the-range homes, high-quality homes built with style and precision to suit your lifestyle. The Equator Courts is a gated community with 2-story, 4-bedroom detached houses at Ogbojo, East Legon, near American House. Our office complexes include Zion House, Shiashi, East Legon, Zion House, Sofa Line Interchange, Kumasi. Our offices and apartments are for both rental and outright purchases at affordable prices and with flexible payment terms. Kindly contact us on 0257 960 919 or visit botproperties.com. BOT Properties, the new meaning of affordable luxury.
No matter your water needs, Syntex has it all. Syntex tank was first to introduce double layer tank, and now you can have as many layers as you want. Syntex tank was first to introduce white inner layer tanks in Ghana, and now introduces the customer specs order, which will let you order any color and size you want. Syntex tanks gives you the biggest warranty of 7 years, which no other tank gives you. So whatever your water consumption, size of project, or demand, choose Syntex tank. Syntex tank, stress-free. Syntex tank, reliable. Syntex tank, maximum guarantee. Call 0244 335 168, Kumasi 0505 555 666, or visit syntexgh.com. Syntex tank, a strong, a tough.
Media Sambisana mo. Eti emra tia no. Mumu hwan pa na tumi hwe na mo bodom pe mu ma na yakono.
Eye kwabna.
Na mumu hwan so na tumi tasmale me ma yene nyina de.
Eye kojo.
Enu kro. Kobre tumi hwe na bodom pe mu sense o yisu president eba. Ayede yan ban ne do braye. Wo si eti na mo ban na sem ma na hoode ne.
Sa
ani na kudwo nso yisu president chako. Na eno ne de e ma wo se wo ye krejen fita. Na watimi asiri bedwo ma na feel you.
Ey kojo.
Yeah. Pepsodent Eba and a Pepsodent Charcoal. Afedie.
You're gonna natural.
FDIJ Jadion Katoyatu.
Welcome back to Ghana Connect. My name is Kwaku Asante. And like I told you before that break, the political situation in Niger is what is occupying our attention tonight on the show.
Soldier, oh soldier.
Of collaboration and unity. We have reaffirmed our commitment to the people of Niger and to the progress of our entire Ecowas community. No option is taken off the table, including the use of force.
Anybody by thinking that we have a standby force. We don't have it. Will be difficult. The mandate, the troop movement, see, it's formations that make war. So what kind of formation? Which are the two contributing countries and what training are they having together? So it was too much for ECOWAS to threaten when they know it can happen. And when you do that, now ECOWAS has a difficulty. You come back to the realization that you need to use some kind of tact, diplomacy, and the last part of diplomacy is engagement in war.
The only body which is mandated to authorize the use of force is the UN Security Council. Now, the fundamental question to ask is, did we have a Security Council resolution authorizing the use of force prior to ECOWAS coming out to threaten to use force? The answer is no.
And they terrorize and kill women and babies. And in Somalia, there has never been peace. Liberia, 10 years of brutality.
On the president to come back to Ghana, come to parliament. That's where the people's representatives are. Let's have a debate, and then we can know what really the Ghana position is and what direction we should take.
Africa, where I wanna be.
So that's a summary of all the things that have been happening. But let's zoom right into the conversation. The big question we are asking today is, do you support ECOWAS's deployment of military forces to Niger to restore constitutional order? That's the question we have. We have a poll running on Twitter. Very interesting results. We'll get to that shortly. For those of you listening, you can join us. You can connect with us also. 055 1111997 055 1111997. But connecting with us on the show today, Mohammed, a regular on this show and a Nigerian journalist. Solomon Omane Mensah is also connecting with us, a law student as well. Divine Adam Kwajo there as a former student leader connecting with us live on Ghana Connect today. Another debutant on the show tonight, Al-Hassan Bello, an international relation enthusiast, is an analyst. You might have heard about him. Hadi Yakubu is a fighter general of the Economic Fighters League, and I will be joined pretty shortly also by Alhaji Sule Mohammed, chairman of the Niger community in Greater Accra. He'll be connecting with us in terms of that picketing they did today, what they make of the latest that ECOWAS has just put out. Let me get to the gentleman right here on Zoom, and let me start from you, Hadi Yakubu. Hadi, thanks for connecting with us. Hadi, I haven't spoken with you since this ECOWAS issues came up, and if you can unmute for me, I want to take what your view is on what you've just heard. ECOWAS say they are ready to deploy, and if the junta does not hand over power, then the consequence will be on them. Hadi, if you can unmute for me. Hadi, I can't hear you. Can you unmute your Zoom? Okay, it appears Hadi has a challenge there. We'll fix it pretty shortly. But Hadi, if you can unmute for me. But let me take you, Bello. Bello, I mean, ECOWAS speaking tough today, saying that they are just about to go to Niger if the junta does not hand over power to President Bazoum and restore constitutional rule. What do you make of that?
Well, good evening to you and good evening to your choice viewers. I think ECOWAS has placed itself in a very tight corner, having decided to use force in the first place. But then, the coups are something of a problem. And the problem stretch across the Sahel. Insecurity, poverty, what do you call it? Overbearing presence of France in the internal affairs of those countries. But even, let's look beyond Niger. What is the situation of the average African in West Africa today? We could see that there's a lot of, what do you call it, problems. And if you look at the sentiment from the general public, they feel like the politicians live in a world of their own, where all they care about is their bellies and the size of their belts. Because you tell the people to pass in their belt, times are hard, and then, come on, you're living large. It doesn't really work that way. But I think in Nigeria's situation, for example, going by force itself is a very risky venture. But then it also boils down to the level of response that the Nigerian army would give. Mind you, the army is not a coherent unit over there. If you look at the coups across West Africa that we have so far, it is orchestrated by special forces. But this is the first time that the presidential guard unit has been able to overthrow the president. But then what are the actors within the military that we must look at, and what do they represent? You have the head of the junta, who initiated the coup himself, and the commander of the presidential guard, Abdurrahman Chiani. He controls just a small unit, the presidential guard. And then you have the disgruntled former chief of army staff who was eased out of office by Bazoum and sent as an ambassador to the UAE, Salih Fumoji. And then you have his replacement, General Abu Sidi Isa. And then you have a point man of the West in the counter-insurgents or the activities in Niger. You know, Niger is the hub of counter-insurgency across the Sahel. It holds the largest US drone base. It has the French military base. So, and then when the French were expelled from Burkina Faso, they shifted their assets and troops into Niger. So Niger became a very special, what do you call it, territory.
I mean, interesting background that you lay there, Bello. I'm very interested in that, and we'll build on it for subsequent conversation right here on this show. But let me go back to Hadi Yakubu, who can now connect with us. Hadi is the movement coordinator of Africans Rising, and is connecting with us right here. Hadi, I mean, you've just heard that Bello talk about what may be leading to this coup d'etat. But he's sick to say that maybe, well, ECOWAS may not be justified. Is that a point you share in this, Hadi? It appears I have a big challenge hearing from Hadi. Hadi, I'll come to you again, but your sound isn't coming here. We'll try. I can't hear you at all. Divine Adam Kwajo there. What do you make of what we've witnessed so far? ECOWAS's determination to move in. Do you support that?
Good evening to your viewers and listeners. I do not think that any West African would support outright military intervention in the Niger Republic because of what history tells us about how such interventions always end. First of all, we have to look at the history. Why is the Sahel suffering from this crisis? The Sahel is suffering from this crisis because of the military adventurism in Libya. And the fallout of that adventurism in Libya is what we are witnessing across the Sahel. And so if we are still 10 years after the intervention in Libya, suffering from the aftershocks of BN debacle, then would we want to compound that with another military intervention? Then another thing we can also not overlook is that ECOWAS may hardly have the financial resources, the military equipment and know-how to wage a successful military intervention in Niger. Because even within our own borders, for small terrorist groups, we are unable to successfully wage war against them on our own without relying on the support of advanced countries. And so that is also another thing to consider, that we risk, making Niger another hotbed of military interventions by advanced powers. And so these are some of the preliminary comments I can make on that for as to why I would not be,
supportive or
immediately happy about a military intervention in Niger.
Right, interesting points there from Divine. And I want to go back to Hadi. Hadi is trying to join the Zoom again if they can accept him. Hadi, you've heard Divine there make a point about ECOWAS may not necessarily be able to fund this, and his view that maybe some Western powers may be backing them. We've heard ECOWAS this evening debunk all of those assertions. Is that a position you share? And is that why I get the sense that you are not backing this intervention? Hello, Hadi.
Yes, hello. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you now live and colored. Yeah.
Great. Good evening, Kwaku, and good evening to the team at Joy. It's been a while. I'm happy to be back here. Good evening to my fellow panelists, and greetings to everyone. I think there are a number of preliminary issues that we have to put on the table. First of all, that military takeover of governments is not the solution to our misgovernance, and this is acknowledging that there is chronic misgovernance in this continent. And I'm saying that from a historical point of view, the military have come before as saviors, and as we know, we all know the trail that has been left. But having said that, it needs to be recognized that some of the coups d'etat that we're seeing are appearing to, be in like the people are appearing to be in favor, especially in this particular Sahel enclave, where the anti-French sentiment is really high, and on the back of the historical long years of French exploitation of natural resources, and even in the killing of some of the leaders who have dared to move away from France imperialism. So therefore, there is a need to ask questions about why it is. And I like the point that Bello made earlier, that coups don't happen without context. And some of these things are happening as a result of certain deep-rooted issues. So it is important for us to look at that. Second, or the other issue is whether ECOWAS really does have the necessary wherewithal. Of course, all the high-flying English, and I had the press conference, all the high-flying vocabulary in English will be mastered, because propaganda is also part of warfare, and they would say everything to assure the public that they have the necessary muscle. But clearly, I mean, look at all the economists in ECOWAS right now, and you can point each one of them, and I can give you different levels of statistics that show they are either in massive debt, their inflation is skyrocketing, their populations are suffering. Just look at Ghana. You buy something in the morning, by evening you go back and the thing is doubled in price. And you can.
I mean, you make a good point about inflation, and I want to throw that to our colleague joining us from Nigeria, Mohammed. Mohammed, is that the same sense you get in Nigeria, that because of inflation and high cost of living, there may be this popular support for coup d'etat, and then generally your people are not supportive of ECOWAS moving in to your neighboring country, Niger, to launch a military intervention?
Yeah. Hello. Thanks, Kwaku. Yeah, I think Nigeria will actually be the worst hit and worst affected if ECOWAS finally use force to invade Niger. Yes, I'm sure most of my colleagues here will agree with me that coup d'etat are not actually the best for Africa. But again, we also at the same time want to query what democracy has actually brought to West Africa in particular. The way we just copycat, is it not high time that particularly whether West Africans or Africans in general try to fashion their own kind of democracy, if there's anything like that, that will actually bring in more dividends of democracy to their citizens. But having said that, you all will recall that and understand, I'm sure you all are aware that we are grappling with Boko Haram, even though they've been technically defeated, like our government will say all the time. But we are grappling with Boko Haram, our own insurgency in Nigeria. And in fact, about 6 states where this insurgency is so high in northern Nigeria are bordered with Niger, which means there is a high tendency, just like somebody mentioned earlier, that we are still grappling with the aftershocks of Libya invasion after 10 years. You understand Libya is in far away North Africa. But we are still grappling all over Africa. In fact, even including Nigeria, that is in far away West Africa, let alone Niger that we share border with, in 6 of our northeastern states. That will be catastrophic because we just don't want to imagine. That's why I mentioned earlier that Nigeria will be the most affected, in fact, of if ECOWAS move in with force. Yes, probably Niger army won't be able to stop ECOWAS. That's for sure. But again, the citizens will suffer for it. And then that will increase the insurgency that West Africa is grappling with, and I don't think anyone is ready for that. And aside that, I overheard the commissioner mentioning, in the live press conference, talking about the Western powers are not influencing anything. That's not true. I'm sorry to say, that's not true, because we know even Putin has categorically mentioned it's been the foreign ministries and so on that has been talking. The foreign ministries in Kenya and so on that have been talking all this while. But I think 2 days ago, President Putin mentioned categorically warning ECOWAS not to invade Niger. So there is no way the commissioner earlier mentioning that the Western powers are not influencing. I think that's not true.
So there's concerns for proxy war in this situation that we are unraveling. We'll get to some social media comments very shortly, but a good point to bring you in, Bello. And guys, I want us to be conversational as possible. When anyone is speaking and you're having some point, you can chip in. Bello, what is the possibility that this could become a point for global warfare in terms of the proxy war between the West and Russia?
Well, if you look at, I think the West is not directly involved in this situation, but you have an overlap of interest between West Africa, led by some few countries, not the entire West African country, but some few countries. I would like you to give me some few minutes to explain that particular issue. But then let me look at the geopolitical angle first before I come to this.
Okay, so let's do the geopolitical angle. Then we can do some comments that will come back for your analysis.
Okay. There's a shifting, what do you call it, global system. We are better moving from the multipolar and from a unipolar to a multipolar world. And then the Ukrainian war has really exacerbated that feature. Where now you have Russia and China with other anti-Western countries forming a bloc, which includes Iran, North Korea, and the likes. And then you have the Western countries trying to regain their strength But if you look at in this instances in the Sahel, anytime the France, which is part of the Western Alliance, loses its influence in one country, it is the Russians that make gains. And the Russians equally begin to serve as a conduit in which China and the rest can now penetrate into the sub-region. That is the geopolitical context you are having. But we should be very careful that the Russians themselves are equally not using state actors. They are using the Wagner Group, which is a non-state actor. That is the tricky part of it. So if there's, human rights violation by the Wagner Group, you hold the Russian state responsible, or you hold the Wagner Group as an entity responsible. That is why you realize that they are playing a possible deniability game where they are involved and they are not involved. That is one. And then there's another thing we need to look at: the economic interests of the West through the Trans-Sahara gas pipeline that is supposed to move the Nigerian gas from Wari into Nigerian territory, across Algeria to the Mediterranean Sea to Europe, after the shortfall of gas supply from Ukraine. From Russia due to the sanction of Russia because of its invasion of Ukraine. So we need to look at this within this frame to realize that in as much as West Africa has its own concern that is pushing it, it is being emboldened further by the Western powers.
That's some interesting perspectives that Bello has shared with us. Really interesting perspective. I'll go to my guest for summing up comments before we wrap up. A huge chunk of our time today has been taken by that ECOWAS press briefing that has just concluded. ECOWAS announcing today that they are ready financially, logistic-wise, to move into Niger to restore constitutional order. Let's do some social media comments now. Let's do some comments before Maxwell joins us with the poll. This one says, if ECOWAS has the mettle to fight the Janta in Niger, then I implore them to engage the Boko Haram in Nigeria instead of the Janta. Joe sending us that from Nankpanduri. Really interesting thoughts there. This one is also coming in through our WhatsApp console. It says, I may be wrong, but I think ECOWAS is wrong here. ECOWAS means well, but they must look at the implication of all this. You didn't add your name. Interesting one there. This one says, seriously, ECOWAS must look at the interests of their citizens, and ECOWAS should stop wasting our time. They succeeded in justifying why they are actually a waste of the taxpayers' money. Patrick from Ablekumajoma sending us that one. Interesting. Thanks for sending us your message and connecting with us. Major one in Kumasi says, what profits Niger if it has all the relevant democratic institutions firmly in the country and its citizens wallow in abject poverty? That is Major one in Kumasi. Let me take this last one before we do the poll from Twitter. This one's a Prof has said it all. The corrupt president and the one they are trying to use force to reinstate, that is their colleague in Niger Republic, is not thinking about the masses but only trying to reinstate one individual who does not care about his or her citizens. A good leader usually leads his people, but not ruin them. Wilson sending us that one from Aflao. Really interesting perspectives in terms of the comments that have come in from our social media. Maxwell Agbagba, my colleague, joins me in studio with a poll from Twitter. Maxwell, this is the poll results as we have had it on Twitter. What is the results? Quite some interesting things we are seeing. What was the question and what are people voting?
So we asked, should Ghana contribute troops to the ECOWAS standby force to Niger? And we had 2,200 votes. Yes, 11%. No, 83%. Yes, and then those who are saying they're indifferent about it, abstentions, we have 6%. So should Ghana contribute troops to the ECOWAS standby force to Niger? Yes, 11%. No, 83%. Abstentions, we have 6%. And some of the comments, Lawyer Ronald says we are bind by practice and purpose to do so. This one here says, if the following people will lead the coup, and he mentions President Akufo-Addo, mentioned the Vice President, mentions Cecilia Dapa, and then Ernest Addison, and then quite a number of
I'm interested in knowing what is your personal view. What do you think? Should we go? To go or not to go?
No, we shouldn't go. We shouldn't go. And of course, the experts have already said it, that going is going to plunge West Africa into a proxy war kind of situation where you have the world superpowers, taking sides. Already they've made their stance known. Anthony Blinken has been speaking on the issue on Twitter a lot. We know his stance. We know the position of France on this. And we know the position of the Wagner forces also on this. We know the position of Russia also on this. So definitely all these, superpowers are going to take position, and then it's going to be a proxy war, exacerbate the terrorism situation in the Sahel. And already West African coastal states, including Ghana, are facing that threat. Right. We shouldn't go. I'm part of the 83%.
Yeah, interesting one there. I can see Jojo coming up whispering from the back that, well, let us not go at all. Interesting. Okay, let me get to my guests before we wrap up the conversation, and I'll go around the table. We get a minute each, then we can call it a conversation today. Let me start with you, Mohammed. If, from all you've said, you do not wish that we go for this military intervention, ECOWAS, what should happen? What should happen?
It's simple. Continuous dialogue. It's very simple. I'm surprised that ECOWAS, if the trajectory is that there was a coup also in Mali, there was a coup in Burkina Faso. Why didn't ECOWAS, if we want to ask that question, didn't take that serious to, try to invade? So, but having said that, I think continuous dialogue is what is key, because we understand that in diplomatic role, you don't expect maybe one delegation or even two or even three or even 10 to resolve issues. It takes time, it takes patience, and I think that is what ECOWAS should look more into rather than hurried into a military intervention that might cost the region a whole lot of catastrophe.
Great one there. Divine, I'm wondering what you think should be the next line of action if you don't believe that we must invade Niger.
Yeah, so, there are different means. Obviously, there's diplomacy, so we should continue exhausting all diplomatic avenues for the resolution of this situation. Second, there are Niger is dependent on Nigeria, for instance, for a lot of its electricity. It is a landlocked country, so definitely they will be dependent on the Nigerian ports. And so what you can also look at introducing is sanctions that can really, it is not a desirable outcome, but it can squeeze the economy of the country, put a lot of pressure on the junta leaders, and then you can force them to come to the table and then have a discussion.
And then have them come around the table for a discussion. I'm interested in knowing what you think, Hadi. Sanctions, but that sanctions normally affect the poor people much worse than the guys who did the coup themselves. Do you agree with that?
Any sanctions that go to bite the people would only increase the resolve of the people in supporting the coup people, the coup leaders. So I think unless you are targeting the sanctions at the players, that will not go to the people, then it will not solve any problem. I think, sorry.
Yeah, Hadi, I'm listening to you.
Yeah, so I think that the war footing that ECOWAS has taken is very, very disastrous, and I don't think they really mean it, because common sense alone will tell you that this would completely destabilize the whole region, and the African Union idea of silencing the guns would become absolute nullity in this particular case.
Hadi, thanks very much for that. And finally, Mohammed Bello, I'm interested in knowing, around this table, your friends have all agreed that diplomacy must be the way. When does diplomacy end? At what point do we say that, well, enough is enough and so we can take some military decisions. Mohamed Bello.
So concerned the ECOWAS, another ECOWAS country. Why is Ghana deporting French refugees who are in Ghana here?
Hadi,
can you
yes,
hear me?
Yes, I hear you on that. I want to give that point to Mohamed Bello. When does diplomacy stop? Because you've all said we must give diplomacy a chance. At what point can ECOWAS say that the diplomacy has not yielded a result? Let's move in militarily. Bello.
See, that leads to the point I was about to explain prior to the geopolitical angle. You see, this whole charade of military boots on the ground is built for by the partnership and ambition and rivalry of just 4 countries whom have termed the Dakar, Yamoussoukro, Accra, Abuja axis in ECOWAS. These are the 4 key important countries. And then you see, you have 2 francophones, Ivory Coast and Senegal. Ivory Coast is the net center of Trans-African Africa. That is what the people are against. Abuja is built for because Tinubu wants to regain some leverage that he thinks Nigeria has lost after Obasanjo's exit from office. But then Ghana shouldn't be drawn to this kind of situation. You see, the solution is very simple. We need a frank dialogue between both the juntas that are ruling this country and our nominal democratically elected leaders, because we have 10 coups in Africa. West Africa, people are just changing the constitution to come for a 10th, which itself is a coup d'etat, but ECOWAS is silent on that. And then we need an all West African conference that involves not just governments, but political players in each of these countries, the oppositions, the civil society, to have a frank dialogue. How do we enforce ECOWAS protocol?
How do we enforce ECOWAS protocol? Great point there by Mohamed Bello to end the show. I know Mohamed Bello had some interesting analysis to give us. This ECOWAS situation hasn't gone away. We'll find some time and come back to it and listen to the key points that this fantastic guest who connected with me today had to make. We say a very good evening to one of Ghana's best generals, Major General Imano Kotia. He's the national coordinator of the Ghana Boundary Commission. Good evening to you and a happy birthday to Abigail Edinam Agbagba, a relative of Mansell Agbagba here at Joy, sister, right? Mansell, please send me her number. Let me wish her personally. Andy Dusty is up next with the library. I've been listening to some songs myself and I see the connection. I see some connections myself. Castro's song B and some foreign song that I listen. One day I'll give it to Andy to play it on the library. The library is up next. My name is Kwaku Asante. Thanks for listening. You've been listening to Mohamed Bello connecting with us. We've also had Divine Edem Kwejode connected with us. And we've heard from the Hadi Yakubu, who has been connecting with us on the show today. And then Mohamed, a Nigerian journalist, also connecting with us live from Nigeria. We expected the head of the Nigerian community in Ghana to join us, but they've been stuck in a meeting.